Welcome everybody, this is Jason and the name of this week's workshop is Don't Fence Me In. This is all about fences, so let's have a look. So how are fences similar to regular objects? Fences share many scene graph resources like the GMDC, the TXTR, the TXMT with regular objects. That is to say, if you can build a deco object, you can also build a fence. How are fences different from regular objects? So with a normal object, you're going to recolor via the MMAT, which reads the OBJD. But fences don't have recolor. So if you need a new color for a fence, you would just have to clone it. There's not much we can do about that. Also, fences have a unique XML resource, the XFNC. It's a text resource and it holds data for the fence. It does kind of what the GMDC, or sorry, the OBJD does and kind of what the CTSS does, but it is neither of those things. So to get started, we need to consider what type of fence we're cloning. There's the flower bed edging. Essentially, it's just a deco thing. It creates a nice border for your flower bed and the Sims can walk over it. Then you have just standard rail fencing. It keeps Sims from walking into certain areas, and it has, three different components: the railing, diagonal railing, and the post. And then you have the column fencing, which it's different because it can support weight above it. So if you wanted to build, say, an enclosed deck with a nice gazebo roof, you could use column fencing. So to get started in Object Workshop, we would clone from the type of fence that we need to clone from: the edging, the rail fencing, or the column fencing. We just clone it as we would any other object. In the GMDC, if you're doing the rail fencing particularly, we need to pay attention to which component goes where. So we would replace the straight railing with the straight railing that we mesh, the diagonal railing with the diagonal railing that we're going to mesh, and then the post is its own thing. We would replace the post with our own custom post mesh. And we do the TXTR and we do the TXMT as we normally would. And once we built it out, we're almost done. The XFNC. So this is where it gets a little bit different. The XFNC generates its own guid when you clone it. It's reading all of the Maxis files, but it might not necessarily, if you have your own custom fence, read that file. If, for example, you have two fences with the same guid, you can just fix that with the hash generator in SimPE or use another method, but it's probably not going to be an issue. Also, this guid does not conflict with the OBJD in regular objects. So this and the guid from a regular object could be the same value and the game would see both differently because the XFNC is its own thing. A couple of other things that are cool. If you look over on the right, you've got this maywalkover property. This is for flower beds. If you set, or the flower bed edging, so if you set it to 1, the sim can walk over it. Post tile spacing. This one actually Gummy researched a couple of weeks ago, and what it does, imagine you have a corral fence that has a post at every section. And then imagine you have a concrete fence that only has a post at the corner. If you set post tile spacing to 1, it's going to add it at every section. But if you set it at 0, it's only going to put the posts at the corners. Bears load, this is for column fencing. So if you want it to be able to hold a floor tile above it, you would set bears load to 1. What the XFNC doesn't do right is the catalog description. It says that it does, but it doesn't. So for example, when you do a straight clone, it's only going to have the first 2 lines. But in the STR for the fence, if you look at a regular fence, there's a 3rd line. We need to add that line manually. What that line is the price per section. So if you want to set it at 5 per section, then you would add a line to here and you would set it to 5. Hey folks, editing Jason here. So when I was doing the workshop, one, I didn't notice that the camera was pointed down at the wrong angle, so it does chop off a bit of my head during the actual workshop. I don't have the opportunity to re-record that, so I just ran with it as is. Two, my audio is still not fixed. I thought it was fixed last week, but I'm not able to pick up the voices from the workshoppers in the chat room, so I might have to cut in with other bits and bobs later. Let's put it into practice. We'll come back to SimPE because we still have some meshing to do. So if you look into these resource posts, I've added an object and it is called picket fence. So we're going to import picket fence, and then we're going to import workshop fence reference. So you can see if we hide picket fence, I've already got these rail sections. So we've got the straight, we've got the diagonal, and we've got the post. So we need these three components in order to make a rail fence. Let's unhide the picket. And that looks like it has some shading issues. What happens if we just go face, smooth all? There it is. Now it's just nice and square. It's not doing any weird shading things with the normals. That we with picket only selected. Let's go to groups, or sorry, let's go to model. We move, and we want to isolate it so that it doesn't move up and down. So we just turn off the Y. And we can slide that over. And I just want it to be flush with that blue line there because that's the starting point. And if we zoom down here, so I want my pickets on the outside. So let's isolate it so that we can only move on the Z-axis. Z-axis, we scoot that down there. And now we come over to this end. We can see that there's a part of this fence that we don't really need. So let's get rid of that second post, and let's get rid of all of these pickets that kind of hang out. We just shift select those in the top viewport. We delete. Now let's grab this end here. And I'm going to start out with a diagonal because it's the longest. Then we just select the end there. Let's turn off the Z and turn on the X, so we're only moving it horizontally. So we just slide it like so. We just want it to be flush with the end of the diagonal section there. So we can see our pickets have a spacing issue. So let's unselect that. What I mean by that, they're almost flush with the end here, but there's a little bit of a gap there. And so what I'm going to do to fix that, we go to our scale and we just make this a little bit wider on the X. And hit that one more time. And then we can, well, let's scale it. Let's scale it once more. Then we move. So we just slide that down. So we're just trying to get kind of uniform spacing on that. And maybe just a little bit more. Okay, that's as good as it gets. So hide that diagonal section. We're done with the diagonal section. Let's select our picket in groups. And I'm just going to call this one pick diag. Rename. So now we take our original picket sec. Oh, I messed up. Hang on. Let's hide everything except picket diag, the one group that we just created, because the post is a separate thing. So I just want to zing out that post. So we just select in the top viewport, we just select the vertices for that post and we delete. And it's fine because we have it saved here. So let's just select that, duplicate selection, and we hide the one that says picket. Now here, this group, let's just select everything but the post in the top viewport, and we just delete. So the post is its own thing, and we'll get back to that. Let's hide that post. We'll come back to the post. So now we unhide picket, and we unhide straight table wood, the template that I created. So go to the groups tab, select picket, then move that horizontally. Actually, do I want to do that? Okay, because that's a much bigger post. The template that I used is one of those huge mead hall balustrades. And we just want a little picket fence. So we're going to leave it like that for now. What we do need to do here select these last three pickets, just the pickets in the top down viewport. We'll just delete those three pickets. Then we need to grab these vertices of the rail there. We go to our move tab. We make sure that we're only moving on the X, and we just scoot those horizontally till they're flush with the end there. Just like that. And then let's hide our guide for now. And this one, because we've already duplicated it, let's just get rid of that. So we've got picket, we've got picket diagonal, and we've got post. Let's mess with the post. So we select our post. For right now, we just let's move it on the X and the Z until it's centered on that 0 tile there. So where you see those two colored lines, we're just going to eyeball it. And something else I want to do, we're not going to scale it vertically, but we need it to go front and back, and we need it to go side to side. So keep Y at 1, and then we're just going to scale the X to 1.05 and the Z to 1.05 at the same time. So we're just making a wider post. And then let's unhide picket. Yeah, that plugs into it at kind of a weird angle. It's not horrible, but maybe I need to rethink it. So let's grab pick it and let's unselect our post. Then let's select pick it and pick it diagonal. I think when I dragged it forward, that kind of messed it up. So without moving it on the X, we're just going to scoot it back on the Z until that board, that center board is centered on the center line. I don't love it, but I think it'll work. Now that I think about it, let's hide the post. And let's unhide, no, not that. So we're unhiding the straight and the diagonal. And before we unhide the post, I'm sorry, this was not planned, but I'm just super picky about the way that I mesh. So I'm just going to reselect all of the pickets. Unhide post again. Let's scale. So turn off Y and Z, and we just scale to 0.99. So we're just going to make it a little bit narrower. Math. Yeah, I am not a fan of math. But yeah, I mean, you can eyeball it, and this is just a workshop. This is just for fun. So I'm not going to be super technical, but that's, yeah, I mean, that is an option for you if you want it to be precise. That works. Do the math. Why is that so weird? Oh, because I didn't move one of the pickets. What I need to do is reselect those vertices. Looks like I just missed a couple. So I'm just going to scale the pickets horizontally, make them a little bit narrower, and then we just scoot this over this way. Make it maybe a little bit wider. That one is not spaced evenly. I don't remember if that's just the mesh or... That bothers me. That really bothers me. So I'm just going to grab this one picket that's not spaced evenly. And there are more. No, we want to move only on the X. We need to isolate the Z. Okay, almost got it. Just reselect all of the pickets. Make them a tiny bit wider. No, that's too much. Let's do 1.02. And then let's just move those so they look about evenly spaced. And that's it. We're just going to have to live with it. So from here in the groups tab, I delete my guides. So I've got picket, diagonal, post 2. We know what's what. So now let's save our work. Picket fence. Yeah, we just export. Just like that. Now we go to SimPE. We go other, fences and rails. And you can see there's column fences. Longhorn balustrade. I just like this good old reliable pine gulcher. So we find one of our pine gulcher fences. We go next. Next. Call it workshop picket fence. It says that it's 40 per section, but for some reason, Chris Hatch's SimPE doesn't clone fences perfectly, so it's going to mess this up. Click finish, and I'm just going to call this workshop picket fence. Click update. And let's save that in our project folder. Okay. So we just clone a fence. And the first thing that we see is the TXTR. Build DXT. We open and we replace it with the texture that says picket fence. We commit and we can save. There's only one TXMT. I just want to see how glossy it is. So we go to the TXMT in resource tree, once again in the resource list, and we pop over to the categorize properties tab. What I'm concerned with is the specularity, because some of these, for some reason, if you clone from, for example, an open for business type shop fence, is going to be super glossy. I think the specularity here is fine, but that's just something that you want to check. Okay, we've done that. Next step, GMDC. So we select the GMDC in the resource tree. We select this first one. This is workshop picket fence, fenced deck, edge wood light post. Okay, this is the post. We can see this is a post. So we go import. We grab picket fence that we just created. Then we don't need the diagonal. We don't need the picket. We just need the one group that says post. So we replace. We replace that subset and we preview. And it's got some weird shadowy thing in the texture, but I think it's fine. Then this is the horizontal rail. Just double check that in the preview. Yep, that's the horizontal rail. So what we need to do, we don't need the diagonal. We don't need the post this time. And I'm just going to add the picket. Why am I doing that? So that I can check to see that this is the correct width. Yep, that's the correct one. Then what we do, we go to the groups tab. We copy the name of this subset. We go to picket and we just paste that over, and then we can delete the original group. And that looks correct. So we commit the straight section, and we select the last GMDC here. And now, because I know this is correct, we just, for picket and post 2, we select nothing. Then we grab the diagonal subset. No, post 2 should be nothing. Diagonal subset, that's going to replace this subset. Give it a quick preview. And that looks correct. Hey, so I had originally planned the workshop how to show you how to fix the price in the STR, but I picked up a hot tip from William during the workshop that is actually better to fix it in Object Relocator, and I will show you why coming up here. Sorry, let me try that bit again. Okay, so this is a tip that William gave me. We start off with Object Relocator. This one's a little bit outdated. There's a better, newer version out there, but we go to build mode. We select our folder, the Don't Fence Me In workshop folder, and we see this fence, and its price is 40. Now, the reason why cloning the fence in SimPE is wonky is that it will say one thing in the XFNC, but if you don't add the text to the STR, it will show a different, and it's going to charge the sim whatever's in the XFNC to build the fence, but it's going to show whatever's in the STR as a catalog price. The advantage of Object Relocator is that it messes with both. So if we want the section to be, if we want it to be, for example, 35 per section, we just 35, we enter, and then we can save, and Object Relocator does the rest. Hey folks, so after the workshop, William did a little bit of digging and he found this out. The fence itself doesn't have anything that prevents a fence light from being placed on top of it. The actual code is in the fence light's init behave. So there's something in the fence light's init behave allowing it to be placed at that height, as in on a fence or on a garden edging. So in order to fix that, it's not in the fence. It will be changing the init behave in the actual outdoor light to not allow it to be placed at that height. Okay, so we can see there's an old fence here already. What we're going to do, I should be about 35 per section. Okay, here's the fence that I built. So let's zip off that old fence there. And the straight and the posts look pretty good. And then I don't love how the post just kind of eats into the corner there. That's kind of weird, but if I were seriously building this fence, I would go back and just remesh that bit. But overall, it looks pretty good. And that's pretty much it. That's how you would build a fence.